everybody, it's me, Tess, with Tess Loves Yarn. And you guys, we are here today to talk about mass producing granny squares in order to get your projects done a lot faster. Now that's a good thing. Okay, before we get started on the video, I would like to thank all of my subscribers. You guys, I appreciate you so much. And I have a lot of gratitude in my heart for each and every one of you. Thank you for always being here and for all of your sweet comments. You guys, you mean the world to me. Thank you. Now, if you are new here, welcome to my channel. I hope you like it. I hope you like me, and I hope you like my content. And if you do, I'd be tickled pink if you'd hit that subscribe button. Okay, a little shout out to my channel members. You guys, oh my gosh, you guys know how much you mean to me. You have been there for me through thick and thin, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. So thank you very, very much. Now, with that all said, let's get into this video. All right, I want to share with you my process of mass producing granny squares. And the granny squares that I like to make are the traditional 5-color, 5-round granny square. Now, if this is the kind of granny square that you also enjoy making, but it's a little daunting to you to get a lot of them completed, or you don't like the ends, or a bevy of other things going on, right, with granny squares. I encourage you to look at my video below. I'll link it in the description. It is tips and tricks to making the perfect granny square. And it is so much easier because I have a way of doing my granny squares where I do not weave in the ends. None of these ends are woven in, but they will stay tight as tight can be. I guarantee you that. I've been doing this for a long time, and my projects never come unraveled. So I'm going to share that with you in the tips and tricks video below, and I will mention it in this video as well. Now let's get started. First, you're going to need to pick out your 5 colors if you're doing the traditional granny square. Now once you get your 5 colors picked out, I want you to make a completed granny square. Just one. All 5 colors, all 5 rounds, but only make one. And the reason you're going to make one is because you need to measure your granny square, because we all have different tension with our yarn and with the way we crochet. And you need to make sure that your granny square measures whatever the granny square in your pattern calls for, or if you're making a granny square, a project based on measurements, and that would be like a flexible project, you still need to know how big your granny square is so that you can figure out how many squares you need. Now, I took all of my measurements, and I'll be making a cardigan with my squares. Now, I know I need 42 squares based on my measurements and the measurement of the square. My squares, because I go down a hook size, because I like my squares to be a tighter woven fabric, I go down 1 hook size. But because of that, my squares are a little bit smaller, so they're 5 1/4 inches. So you need to know this in order to make sure your project A, fits you correctly, or B, that you make enough squares. Okay, so do that. Now, once you've got your one granny square completed, put that off to the side after you have measured it, okay? Because now we're going to get into making our granny squares. Figure out how many squares you need for your project, whether it's a blanket, a sweater, a cardigan, a skirt, whatever you're making, a purse. Figure out how many squares you need. Now you're going to take your very first color and you're going to set your first color on your craft table or wherever you're working, and you're going to take your other 4 colors and you're going to set them somewhere out of the way, but where they're easily accessible and that you can see them, okay? So put those somewhere else. Now, what you also need to do is you need to grab yourself a small project bag. Here's my small project bag. It is the size of a handbag, and I love it. There is plenty of room in here, as you can see. Now, what you're going to do with this project bag, this is going to be your to-go bag, and I'm going to explain that as well. But on top of your go bag, you're going to need a small zippered pouch. And I'll tell you why you need this in a minute as well. So you're going to get your to-go bag ready, and you'll just have your hook in here, and then you'll also have your little scissors, anything that you need to make your squares. Now don't forget, we are not weaving any ends in. You are not going to weave a single end in, okay? So don't worry about a darning needle. Now this is my to-go box for knitting and crocheting. I do have darning needles, but you can see I have my little scissors, I have a yarn threader, I have some stitch markers here, right there, and this is just a tiny little thing that goes in my to-go bag along with whatever hook or needles I'm currently working on this project with. All right, so I'm going to put that back in there. Now, the reason the go bag is so important is because we live in a world of waiting, right? If you're going to the doctor, the dentist, the hairdressers, a nail appointment, any type of appointment, really, any type, chances are you're going to be waiting maybe 10, 15, even 20 minutes or more, especially if it's a doctor's office. Now, it doesn't even have to be your appointment. If you have kids and you're taking them somewhere, or you're taking them to a sporting event, or you're picking them up from something, you're going to be sitting in your car waiting. These are all opportunities to pick up your project and work on it, as long as you have it all together, quick and easy to grab. So that's tip number 1 there, okay? Now, the reason you need the small zippered pouch is because when you are mass producing your granny squares, the only thing you're going to be making at first are your center pieces. See? Now, I need 42 pieces for my cardigan. You can tell I've already made one. So I made 41 center pieces. Now these little center pieces can get away from you very easily. And so that is why I recommend a little zippered pouch to keep these pieces in. Until they get bigger, they have a way of disappearing. Y'all are going to have to trust me on that. Yeah. So you're going to make your first round first, and you're going to make all of them that you need. Now, you are not going to weave in any ends when you're done with these little squares. All you're going to do is fasten off, and y'all know how to do that. Slip stitch in, chain 1, and cut your yarn. Now here's the other thing. You only need about a 2-inch tail. You don't need a big long tail because you are not weaving in your ends. Don't forget that. Tiny little tail. This saves you yarn as well. So remember, 2 inches is plenty for what you're going to do with your ends, okay? So after you make all of your first round pieces, then you're going to take that color and you're going to put it back in your stash because you are finished with it and you no longer need to have that hanging around. So restash it, get it out of your way. Now you're going to go over to where your 4 other colors are and you're going to select the next color in your granny square. So for me, my next color is this nice dark pink, okay? And then what you're going to do, you're going to get your little pouch here and you're going to prop it up here and you're going to grab one out and then you're simply going to start making your next round. And that's my next round right here. It is the dark pink because I'm mimicking a flower. A flower is darker on the inside and it gets lighter as it goes out, usually. So that is what I'm doing. I have the dark pink and then I'm going to have the lighter pink right here. And then the green is the leaves and then the cream color is just my background color, okay? So you're going to go through, you're going to do round 2 on every single square, just round 2. You're not going to do any other colors, just round 2 color. And remember, you're going to fasten off and you are not weaving in any ends. Now, once all of that is finished, you're going to take this color and you're going to put that back in your stash and get that out of your way. Now you're going to go in with your 3rd color. You're going to put your 3rd color in your to-go bag along with your 2 color squares now, and keep them still in this. Even at 2 colors, keep them in this. And then you're going to go and you're going to do every single square in your 3rd color, okay? Now when you're done with all of your squares, you're going to fasten off, chain 1, and cut your yarn. And you are not weaving in any ends. You're going to restash that. And now you don't need this anymore. Once you have your 3 colored squares, you can still continue to use this if you want, but you don't have to use it because your squares are big enough now that they're not going to get away from you, okay? So I usually take this out at this point and I just put the squares in my bag without being in anything else, okay? So once you do that, you're going to repeat that process. Excuse me, got a little bit of a cold going on with this crazy Midwest weather. Anyway, you're going to repeat that with your 4th color and your 5th color. You never weave the ends in. You don't do anything. Once you finish that round, you are done. Do not weave in the ends. Just fasten off and move on, okay? So to recap, you are doing 1 color at a time. You are going to do every single square that you make in that same color until you're finished with that color. Then you're going to go in and you're going to do round 2, and you're going to do every square round 2. Then round 3, 4, and 5 until every square you have is completed. And you guys, this gives you such a sense of satisfaction. I'm sorry, I can't talk this morning. Because you're looking at your squares and they are building up into granny squares. And you can see this with every round that goes by, you are closer to completing your project. And because you are only doing one color at a time, you are not weaving in any ends or anything like that, the project is going to go much faster. Now, believe me, I have done this so many times. It really goes a lot faster than doing your square all at once, weaving in your ends and blah, blah, blah. I never weave in my ends, and I'll tell you why. I use a square knot to tie my ends together. And if you don't know what a square knot is, it is a knot that you make. You put both of your yarn ends upward facing, and then you go right over left, tie tightly, and then left over right and tie tightly. Now, I show you this in detail in my tips and tricks video, which will be in the description below, the link, okay? So if you have not watched that video, I highly recommend you watch that video before you start making your granny squares, okay? Now, when you make a square knot like that, your knot is going to slip underneath your stitches. It'll slip right underneath those double crochet stitches, and you will not see them at all. Yes, it's a beautiful thing. And that knot will not come out. I've used that knot for a long, long time. I've washed my items. I've worn my items. That knot will not come out as long as you make it correctly, which is why I recommend you watch my tips and tricks video. All right? So, once you get all of your colors done and you have all of your ends tied in, and let me tell you too, if your ends are a little bit off, just take your crochet hook and pull the end through until it's right next to another end, because you want your two ends to be next to each other so you can tie them, all right? And it's very easy. And if you start your next round where you finished your last round, it's way easier, okay? So that's a little tip right there in this video. But anyway, that is how you mass produce your granny squares. And don't forget, anytime you leave the house, if you know you're going to have some wait time, or if you're just going out for a sports event or something and you want to crochet as you're watching that event, take your to-go bag with you so that you can have those little moments that are extra time in your day to help get your granny square done. All right? So that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and you all know what is next. Be kind and be safe out there in the world, no matter where you are. And I will see you next Sunday. Thank you, everybody. Bye.